Hey, it's Dan Moralez, and this is Homebuyer Radio. This is episode number 149. So this week, as we get ready to kind of wrap it up for the year for 2019, I always want to give those of you who are self-employed a really big reminder, if you will, okay? A lot of times, what happens is my clients who are self-employed will all of a sudden go through and spend, large gobs of money or, make big purchases for the business in an attempt to try to drive down what they made in income for 2019 that they have to pay taxes on, okay? So I want to give you a warning. And the warning is, if you are going to be taking out a mortgage at some point in time over the course of the next couple years, because oftentimes for those of you who are self-employed, we're going to look at the last 2 years' tax returns. Well, if you go through and you write off a bunch of stuff as part of your 2019 tax return, and some of it was stuff that didn't necessarily have to be written off, you could potentially put yourself in a position where you could hinder your ability to be able to qualify for a mortgage. So as you plan for your year end, might I suggest to you that if you think that you are going to have a need for a mortgage over the course of the next couple of years, that you exercise some caution in what you spend and what you choose to write off as part of the loan, or I should say as part of the tax return or year-end planning process for you. Because if you are too aggressive and you write off a lot of stuff on your business tax return, you could write off your ability to be able to qualify for a mortgage. So for those of you who are self-employed, we normally are going to look at the last 2 years' tax returns. Now, we typically average those last 2 years' tax returns to come up with an income number, okay? Now, there are a couple of different exceptions to that rule. If in the case, let's just say your most recent year had lower income than the previous year, then we're only going to average typically the most recent year's tax return. Now, in the case that you've been self-employed for 5 years or longer, we're normally going to look at just 1 year's tax return as opposed to 2 years. So if you think that there's a possibility that you may need a mortgage for some reason, I just really want to give you a word of warning to be cautious on what you do in regards to your tax returns, because if you are too aggressive, you can put yourself in a position where being able to qualify for a mortgage can become problematic or troublesome, if you will. The only other way to kind of undo some of that would be to file an amended tax return. And if you file that amended tax return, you better have a good reason why you're filing the amended tax return, right? So it's one of those things where you just want to be very cautious in how you approach the end of the year and your subsequent tax return preparation, because you could put yourself in a position where you could do yourself some harm. Now, if you're not sure how something could impact you come, time to get a mortgage, or you're concerned about what everything could look like in your self-employed, we would love to help you. I have done mortgages for a ton of clients who are self-employed. I have a lot of clients who are self-employed, and we have a number of options to be able to help them. Oftentimes when clients are self-employed, you have lenders that just lack the ability to be able to know how to properly qualify those clients who are self-employed. And so oftentimes, those of you who are self-employed are discouraged, or you're led to believe that the process of getting a mortgage is far harder than what it really is. It's really not that difficult as long as you're reporting your income and you're truthfully, making enough income to support what you're looking to borrow. Where it gets a little more complex is those of you who are, and this is really the podcast who it's aimed at, is those of you who are creative come tax time, and you look for ways to really drive down your tax liability, and you do that by taking advantage of every possible loophole and write-off underneath the sun possible. Well, sometimes when you do that, you put yourself in a position where you truthfully just cannot qualify for a mortgage, which is not necessarily a good thing for you, okay? Now, you might think to yourself, hey, I don't need a mortgage. I don't plan on borrowing anytime soon, so this doesn't matter to me. Yes, and maybe no. Right? So what happens if we see a big drop in interest rates in 2020, like a lot of people think we could see? What happens if that happens and you wrote off a ton of stuff and you were super aggressive on your tax returns, and now you can't qualify to take advantage of the lower interest rate because on paper it looks like you don't have enough income to be able to qualify for a mortgage, right? So you could still shoot yourself in the foot. So I just want to make sure that those of you who are self-employed, you are giving some consideration to this stuff and you're doing some planning, because if you don't, you could find yourself in a world of hurt that was avoidable with a little bit of planning and a little bit of forethought. So prior to filing those tax returns for 2019, you might want to give some thought to what you choose to write off and not write off, and maybe do some planning. If you're not sure how those things are going to impact you, or you want to have somebody take a really deep dive into your ability to qualify and make sure that you're rock solid and good to go, my team and I would love to help you. Okay. I am Dan Moralez, America's Mortgage Man. You can find me online at danmoralez.com. That's DANMORALEZ.com. Phone number is 616-931-4629. My NMLS number is 709729. I work for Northpointe Bank, and of course, Northpointe Bank is an equal housing lender, with all loans being subject to credit approval. So, hey, do me a favor. If we can help you out, reach out and let us know, and let's see how we can maybe help you to avoid some harm or potential hardships as part of the mortgage process going into 2020. Okay? Hey, hope you guys have a great holiday, and as always, we're here to help you. Have a good one. See ya.